Hey, what's up, everyone? My name's Lionel. Hey, I'm your host for LG Productions, and you are watching another edition of Soundbite. Soundbite is where I want to discuss different topics a little bit more intimately and not just read a headline or whatnot. This is from my other segment, which is Speak Up. Today, it's going to be political. No, this is not a political channel. However, we got to talk about these issues that are really hovering over the United States and possibly worldwide. But right now we're going to speak about what's happening within our nation and then what's specifically happening within my state that I live in, Florida. I do appreciate everyone for coming to my channel. Please like this video. You can also subscribe, leave your comments below, and share this video. Now let's get into this soundbite. All right, y'all, so we know in regards to what's been happening recently with Don Lemon. He's been the one that's been pushed out into the limelight as to what's going on. He was arrested after being at a protest that was protesting against a pastor who is also an ICE participant in the state of Minnesota. People have been trying to link him into saying that he was gathering this protest together, and we will actually read the charge that was against him. They're trying to say that he was a part of the protest, and he said, no, I'm a journalist, and I was reporting what was going on. But how they were able to arrest him is that they're alleging that he was a part of the protest as far as a member of it and doing all the protest things. There's been 4 more people that have been listed, or 3 more people that have been listed that have been arrested from that time. There is Miss Georgia Fort, whom is an activist and a journalist. Trahim Jean Cruz. I did say Georgia Fort, and Jamel Lydell Lundy. Those 4 were arrested from federal agents. I'm going to read something from Stacey Abrams that she did a print or posted on the 30th of January. Last night, veteran journalist Don Lemon was arrested by federal law enforcement at his hotel in Los Angeles. The pretext that his reportage of the Minnesota church on January 18th to provide an account of an anti-ICE demonstration violated the rights of those seeking to participate in worship services. A charge to federal courts had previously rejected a spurious. Across the country, journalist Georgia Fort posted an account of her arrest on the same trumped up charges. And there's a video, and I'm going to see if I have this clip and I'll show it. Anyways, Abrams goes on to say, let us set aside for the moment that the arrests were predicated on their entering a church pastored by an ICE-filled agent days after the killing. I am on YouTube. After the KILLING of Renee Good, and a week before the MURDER of Alex Peretti by ICE. We must also suspend for an instant incredulity that a regiment that has raided churches to kidnap immigrants has suddenly changed its mind of the sanctity of such spaces. Meaning, you're mad at a protest, but y'all were running up in churches to try to find immigrants. Abrams says, what we must not lose sight of is that journalists are being harassed and hunted by an authoritarian crackdown that conflates truth-telling and sedition. It is not a surprise that this is step 6 of the autocrat's playbook, attack the truth. Like the defunding of public media, the suspension and or firings of Jimmy Kimmel, Steve Colbert, and Carrie Ataya, or the ongoing shittification of TikTok. The Republican regimen held by Trump, but enabled by Congress and the Supreme Court, is hard at work at eradicating American freedom. The arrest of Don Lemon, who has been in the news business for 30 years, signals that we have left behind a First Amendment that has real meaning. Georgia Fort, a member of the National Association of Black Journalists, has stepped into the void created by a corporate media obsessed with false equivalence. Their detention and that of Tahir Jean Cruz and Jamel Lydell Lundy joins the raid of the Washington Post reporter's home, and now acceptable practice of this administration, barring the press from presidential events and the Pentagon. We hear these stories come over the transom and shake our heads. Then we return to regularly scheduled programming that has been consolidated to filter out truth and flood propaganda. Attacking the truth is a well-tested tool of those who want to control a people and its power. Because when reality is shaped by a set of algorithms and arrests, we adapt to lessen our expectations and toggle down our outrage. As with our tacit acceptance of the military occupation of multiple U.S. cities, we are likely to file this arrest under the heading of "how horrible" or "my goodness gracious." Some will do their best to keep it in our current events, but like the character of Christopher Nolan's Memento, we will soon require daily notes to remind ourselves of the ongoing erosion of what we knew of America. Over the past 2 nights, I've spoken to audiences about how we are squarely in a competitive, authoritarian country. Invariably, the question is what we can do. The answer will always feel inadequate to the scale of harm, but the truth nonetheless, the small things add up. To combat this regimen, I urge you to follow the 10 steps of freedom and power. First, by sharing the truth, not misinformation. Organize and mobilize to mitigate harm, whether that is donating to local journalists or flooding social media with demands for the release of their journalists. Minneapolis is proof of concept. The Dragsonian overreach is precisely because of a thousand acts of resistance have forced the eviction of Greg Bovino and the blessed temporary quiet of Kristi Noem. And yes, we must engage those who hold elected office at every level of government responsible for speaking out and offering concrete plans for how they will protect us, our children, and our communities. It works. This week, Senate Democrats held their ground and gained a concession that would have been unthinkable in the final days of 2025, when an off-duty ICE agent killed Keith K-I-L-L-I-E-D, Keith Porter. No, the modest reform of a modern reimagining of fugitive slave patrols in the form of ICE or Homeland Security investigations is insufficient for restoring justice, but increments matter. Resistance matters. Losing our nation will happen over time and all at once. We, though, will decide what is to be by realizing that we must show evil and good who we are and that we're not going anywhere. From what I do know is that Don Lemon has been free with no bond. I've been trying to see if Georgia Ford has been free, but I just haven't seen anything as of yet. Or Tahir Jean. I'm checking again right now. I just didn't see anything, so it's like, ugh. Okay, so she was released also. And nothing on Tahir and Jamel. Sorry for the delay. Nothing on him either. I wish I had an update, but I don't. But anyways, these were 2 activists and journalists that were at this protest, and they did arrest them. 4 black people, 4 black journalists. All they were doing was covering it, but somehow they got into the mix of things. I did look to see if there were non-public figures that were arrested. I haven't seen anything. Maybe you all have, and you can definitely put that in the comments, and I will definitely correct myself. I just don't have all the information. I have not found any of that. So it's very weird, y'all. But what I will say is if you don't understand what's going on, and I don't know how spiritual you are, however, what the enemy, I'm not talking specifically about the president in office. What the enemy has planned right now is to silence us. He's attacking the voice right now. And the best thing you can do is not be silent. Black people, I know that you have been since the election, the result of the election has happened, that you said it's not our fight, we're going to sit back and let y'all do it. It's time to get out of pride. It's time to get out of arrogance, get out of bitterness, hurt, and betrayal, because all of this does still affect us. And it don't hit home until it hits you. Of course, it's hitting other people at this point, because our people have always been hit with this. However, sitting silently is not going to work for anyone. America is shifting. Some things are good and some things are going to be bad. I've been listening to a few people who are ministers and preachers and who are prophetic. I only listen to a few, really two, and that's it. You know, in this hour, no, we can't sit silently. I'm doing whatever I can to be more conscious as to what's going on and seeing where I can help. I can't do a lot of stuff, but me sitting here is not helping anything, and to think that it's going to work out, no, it's not. The chaos is going to keep going and going and going and going. Don't know how biblical you all are, as I was talking about that the enemy, and whom I mean the enemy is Satan, the devil, is attacking our voice. And guess what? According to the Bible, Satan is the prince of the power of air, meaning he has some authority within media and how he's able to get messages across. Stacey Abrams was just telling us in regards to the propaganda to attack the truth and to make it seem like it's this or that, This whole immigration thing has just turned into, it was supposed to be the illegals, remember? It's done turned into anybody that is not white that they are attacking. It is quite crazy that this is happening right now. I'm grateful for, hopefully the other journalists have been freed, but I'm grateful for Don Lemon and also Miss Georgia, who has been freed under this unconstitutional indictment against them. Freedom of speech, the First Amendment, also includes media, meaning free press. That means that they can come in and they were reporting it. And somehow they got gooped into all of this because of what they actually stand for, and they're using this as a tactic to intimidate and to shut down people. At this point, we can't. There is a war going on without machinery. We wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities that are in the spirit realm. And some of this is being enacted through people. President Trump, the first election, he seemed off his hinges. This re-election, this is a Pharaoh that we don't know. If you've read the book of Exodus, when a new Pharaoh arose, he was quite the taskmaster, and quite harsh unto the children of Israel. This is the new Pharaoh that we got around here. I feel like, this is just an opinion of mine, people have been very upset since President Obama was in office. And there's been a plot and a scheme that they've been working on for years to reverse whatever he had going on and all of that. If you notice that the one person that Trump always compares himself to, that he wants to be greater than, is Obama, a black man. So many people respect him. And he wants to eradicate all of that. And it's up to us to just, like, he can do what he want to do or whatever, but however, this is supposed to be a democracy. However, it is shifting into something else. Waiting on a politician to do it. Waiting on just an election. Elections do help and work. Again, just sitting there is not going to do anything for any of us. But more that I wanted to speak on. Again, use your voice, fight, do whatever you need to do. I wanted to talk a little bit about Florida, the Florida government and what they got going on. I've been hearing bits and pieces, but I'm kind of just more waking up, and I really fell into this information by accident. I was just scrolling along on Instagram, and I found that there's some stuff that's happening within the Florida ranks State Representative Angie Nixon, she's a part of District 13 up in the Jacksonville area. She began to talk about what they are doing within their state legislation meetings as to what they're trying to do with Florida. And it's wage theft. And what they're trying to do is to give leeway as to employers at what they want to pay their employees. And they're trying to use these fancy words, but Miss Angie was saying, not so, you're not going to just gaslight us and act like this is right. So we're trying to get a livable wage in Florida, and this person's trying to push forth a bill, not Angie, but this other person, this other congressperson, or Senate person or state person, another official is trying to pass a bill for this to happen. I want you to take a look at this video.
Hi everyone, it's Florida State Representative Angie Nixon here, and I needed to come on here to let you all know that I am fighting for you up in Tallahassee. I want you to know that many of my colleagues, particularly those that are Republican, they really don't give a shit about hardworking families. Take a listen.
Members, thank you for agreeing to hear my bill HB 221 related to minimum wage requirements. It's a bill I'm unofficially calling the On-the-Job Workforce Training Bill. An unintended consequence of Florida's constitutional minimum wage is that it cripples an employer's ability to provide more opportunities for unskilled workers in areas of apprenticeship and education. Article 10, Section 24 of the Florida Constitution states the current minimum wage requirement in the state of Florida, but it does not require employees to accept that amount if they choose to waive that right. Through this bill, an employee may waive the right to receiving the state minimum wage by knowingly and voluntarily signing a waiver to do so. We need this bill to ensure employees are knowingly and voluntarily giving up that right to the minimum wage. That is the bill.
Why are you lowering it to the federal minimum wage? Why not $10 an hour? Like what? Like I don't understand why these corporations can't pay $15 an hour.
We're not lowering it. We're giving the employer the option to have flexibility with what they're offering. It's not about why they can't necessarily, because corporations certainly have money. But there's positions there that they're just not going to create if the government or the state is forcing them to pay a certain rate. I don't think anyone needs to go down this if they're overly worried about the dollar an hour that they need to make for a living wage.
If I am a nuclear plant owner, can I hire people for and advertise a job for $7.25, and those people could come into contact with nuclear waste or whatever?
There's a lot of what ifs in that question. However, if your business met all the requirements that I just laid out and it was a work-based learning structure, then you would be able to participate in this bill.
So that person can have tons of degrees and even a history working at a nuclear plant, and then they can still be only hired on for $7.25 just because it's structured as work-based learning.
I don't know if this bill was designed for the people with tons of degrees, because they can have a lot of opportunity. However, if someone with tons of degrees wants to learn something in an area that they otherwise would never have access to, those people might see the value in the mentorship. So in that case, I would leave it up to that person.
Ooh. This is the biggest amount of gaslighting I have witnessed in a long time. With all due respect, it's not just about bad actors. Like, the system is broken. That is why the people of the great state of Florida decided to put an amendment on the ballot to increase the minimum wage to $15 an hour. So don't get on here on this dais and simply tell people this is about creating new jobs and opportunities for people. This isn't about creating opportunities. This is about pushing people into poverty and getting corrupt corporations and greedy billionaires richer, period. I think it's very disingenuous for us as a body to have passed legislation allowing kids who wanted to get Bright Future scholarships to now have the opportunity to get paid because you state that their parents are probably struggling right now. And so now you're gonna make their parents struggle even more by cutting their potential wages by 50%. And then there is no guardrails. I asked you, point blank period, could someone who owns a nuclear plant hire someone at $7.25? You said they shouldn't be able to do, you basically alluded to the fact that that probably wouldn't happen. It's a what if, but it can. Let's talk about wage theft here in the state of Florida, okay? Or over in general. So wage theft is a widespread problem in the U.S. It estimates, the Economic Policy Institute estimates that 10 most populous states, including Florida, 2.4 million workers lose $8 billion annually to minimum wage. This EPI has also found that Florida workers are the most likely to suffer minimum wage violation. And now you're gonna cut the minimum wage even more, so therefore they really gonna be struggling. And so Dr. Templin stated earlier, it's not studying, it is actually these people are working. This isn't a learning opportunity. This is a way for people to get cheap labor, free labor, and I don't know, I guess because my ancestor blood runs through my veins, I'm feeling a way about this because my people have oftentimes worked for free or worked because they were going to get killed. And like this is not the way to go. The only opportunity that this bill creates is the opportunity for corrupt corporations and greedy billionaires again to get rich. I just, for the life of me, don't understand why we're doing that. There are a lot of bad actors. That was illustrated with the numbers that I just told you about wage theft. And you're up here gaslighting Floridians, hard-working Floridians. This is wrong. There is no guardrails in place. I see people abusing this, hiring people, letting them go, hiring more people, letting them go, all because they want to get richer. These companies are allowed to get richer, and yet, and still you are not letting working class Floridians get paid a living wage. That's wrong. Y'all are dead wrong. This is dead wrong. And I hope everyone in the state of Florida realizes what's happening.
Let's keep the comments.
I'm sorry. I just cannot. I'll leave it at that. Like, if you care about hardworking people in the state of Florida, if you don't want to push people into poverty, you will vote this horrible bill down. I cannot believe y'all are doing this. The bill passes.
Congratulations. By your vote, the bill will be reported favorably.
Okay, so Miss Angie Nixon, this is my first time even knowing that you existed. I haven't really been conscious that much of what's been going on with Florida. I do have a channel where I can let things be known, and I did not know that all this was happening. I knew that laws were changing. I know the governor that we do have is quite an interesting type of person, and he's made a lot of different changes in laws that have been quite crazy. But I'm glad I do know you now, and if I can just spread the word of what you see, what's going on. She also on her page, she's been the state representative, and now she's going to be running for U.S. Senate. Yes, that's what she's going to be doing. She's trying to push an act, a visible act, meaning that ICE has to be unmasked, and ICE has to have an ID. If the police got to show their badge, why can't these people show? Because what we're finding out that there are people, and I think she has a clip here, and you'll see it. I'll see if I have the clip to put on here. You'll see that there are people that are operating as if they're ICE and doing other things besides what their job is supposed to be doing, which is supposed to be finding illegal immigrants, non-documented immigrants. But they are kidnapping, they are SAing women and girls. They're doing all sorts of things. Who are these people? Where did they get this training to just, because they're quite, some of them are unhinged. Even the ones that aren't doing the so-called SA. Because some of them don't even know how to handle situations, and they will pow to KILL. And all you're supposed to be doing is just getting illegals out of here? No, something else is wrong. Something else is up. And you ought to show yourselves. We've already dealt with white capes. And that's basically where things are returning to. But I don't understand, if you're ICE and you're doing your civic duty, why would you need to hide yourself? If you're doing the right thing, I don't understand why you're masking yourself. And I think mostly these are men. As far as I know, I don't know about women or whatnot. But what are you hiding for?
Hi everyone, I'm Florida State Representative Angie Nixon. I'm based out of Jacksonville, Florida, but currently I am in Tallahassee right now. We are in legislative session, and I want you all to know that I actually filed legislation called the Visible Act alongside Senator Carlos Guillermo Smith. So the Visible Act would require immigration officers to be unmasked, as well as to have their department agency name in big bold letters, as well as their last name or their badge ID. The rationale behind this legislation is public safety and safety of the officer. There have been news reports that came out that highlighted the fact that there were some people personating ICE officials and actually kidnapping women and sexually assaulting them. Also, we are in a stand your ground state. That means if people are in fear of their lives, they could stand their ground. And if you are unmasked and unmarked and you are running up on somebody with a gun or whatnot, that could potentially put you in harm's way as a law enforcement officer. And so we want to make sure that people are safe, right? If we want to ensure public trust, we have to ensure that, listen, if you have the power to detain Floridians, they should at least know who you are. That is accountability. that is transparency. At the end of the day, masked men jumping out of unmarked vehicles does nothing but create chaos and mistrust in the community. And so if we want to ensure public trust, we don't need the secret police in our communities. We need them to abide by the Constitution. We need them to treat the overall community with respect. And we need them to treat people humanely at the end of the day.
Yeah. So I'm hoping that bill does get passed, Ms. Nixon. And congratulations on your running on the Senate. I think that's later. This is for the midterm elections and all that. I pray that you are successful in that. Moving briskly along, I found this article while scrolling through Instagram that we have our first black woman that's running for Florida state governor. Her name is Dana Marie Foster. She is a math teacher at the Fort Lauderdale High School. She's a part of the Young Adult Voices of Advocate. She's already has her degree. After she found out, some of the things in the laws that were changing, she ended up going back into school and getting her BS, her bachelor's in political science at Florida State University. Her focus will be Florida First. She is coming up with a plan to have economic opportunities for working Floridians, raising minimum wage and investing in small businesses instead of all these corporations, as we were just talking about in that last video. Create pathways to generational wealth and affordable housing. She's strengthening tenant protections and make home ownership achievable for working families, young people, and seniors. I mean, everywhere I look, there's some type of housing community, but why are y'all building all these communities that nobody can afford? I just don't get it. Healthcare that works for all. Expanding Medicaid, protecting reproductive health care, capping prescription costs, and investing in mental health services. And I think that that's going to be needed in this time frame because there's so much going on to really attack the nervous system, giving anxiety, and people are just you're going to see an attitude shift. I know a lot of you are like, people aren't angry enough. It's coming out, and nobody's going to be prepared for it. When people get angry, when people feel that their security is being messed with, what do you think they're going to do? They get desperate and do anything. And if you can also track the stuff that is going on, since January 6th of the year that the group of people stormed the Capitol, a lot of people have been very lawless and just been doing anything and everything. It don't surprise me that there were protesters at that church for that pastor. I don't even understand why that pastor tried to get involved with politics in that way. Not saying that you should not be a leader within the community and being connected to government in some type of way as far as helping out the people in the community. That's what I'm talking about. But you decided to be a sniper to snuff out immigrants by any means necessary that you think are illegals. I can't say that that's a call from God. I can't say that. Not at all. Not at all. Not at all. But anyways, Miss Dana also says immigrants make us stronger. No human is illegal. She wants to protect immigrant rights and ending inhumane detention practices and creating a clear, fair path to citizenship. Look, there is really no single person on this planet, in the United States, in America, that's not an immigrant. No matter if now you're born here, you were brought over here by your sisters, your ancestors, in some type of way, shape, form, or fashion. I'm not saying that all of it's fair. I think that there could have been a greater strategy put in place for people that are seeking out the United States and most come for just better opportunity. But there's no way that y'all can say that, oh, we need to get them out of the United States because I can't even get anything. They're still not giving you anything. As far as this administration, only the people that are already wealthy or at a certain tax bracket that are actually being serviced at this point. They didn't care about you, the working class people, even though they tried to cater to you to get your vote. They did not care about you. They don't have you in mind as far as how to help you out. And we're in a place where our nation is turning this country into poverty. You know what he just arrested that dude from Venezuela for the oil. You know, they were impoverished and all that. It's been already spoken prophetically that there's going to be a famine within the land. I've been hearing this since about 2011, 2012, since I came to Florida, that God's been speaking this. Guess what? The time is coming very near. So anyways, yeah. So again, I think that there's got to be a better system in place as far as with these immigrants and how to get them in here and how to get them at least at our level to operate. Do I think that they deserve a free ride? No. But let's stop allowing people. Why are we just giving crutches? I think that there could be help and aid, but let's lift them up too at the same point, at the same time. Gun reform. Support universal background checks, red flag laws, safe storage requirements, raising the minimum purchasing age. Fix and fully fund public education, fair teacher wage, wage to safe classrooms, to stopping political censorship in education. Yeah, because you know that they already started removing books and you can't teach this now. I understand the folks that are homeschooling their children at this point. It's just the way it is. But yeah, but those were the key people. I'm now starting to pay attention to who even my state representative or in my district. Her name is Lois. What is her name? Lois Frankel. And she also has a lot of things going on. She's a Democrat and she's fighting fervently against a lot of things that even Trump is doing locally. But probably I'll get into that at another time. That's all I really did have at this time. But I just wanted to make you aware of some of the things that even if you're not seeing in national news, any Floridians, if you don't know, some of this stuff is happening right now. Now, with the wage theft that Ms. Angie was talking about, we are already in at-will state, meaning you're really just hired on it as at-will, that your employer can fire you at any time. They don't really have to have a reason. They just can't fire you under discrimination. However, you got to prove it if this actually did happen, or it's a harassment type of situation. If something corrupt has happened, then you can fight up against it. And also you have your right to leave a job whenever you feel like it. You don't have to give a 2-week notice and all of that, and everything will be good. But yeah, for it to just become this liberal for all of these companies, it's turning into a monopoly. We see the signs, Netflix trying to be the monopoly, getting greedy and purchasing Warner Brothers. America and life as we know it is not going to be the same. Again, some things are going to be good and some things are going to be bad. And we got to push up against it. And we got to become aware, and we can't be so distracted by this and that. Support independent journalists out there. If you know any local ones, if you know any of them that are on social media, support them as much as possible. They're in the field. They're doing the work, the real work. Even if you can't do anything out there, at least show your support in some type of way and get up off the couch. Get up off of your just complaining. Get up off of your shaking your head. Get up off of your I told you so. There's no time for it. And guess what, y'all? The chaos just started. There's more chaos coming. But do you want to know what else is really being plotted and planned? While there's a rumbling happening here in the United States, other countries are looking at us. There's been so much pride on us, and this is the greatest country to be a part of, and and it's being shaken right now. It's going to leave, when it's all said and done with, this is going to leave us in a vulnerable state, and it's going to allow other countries to come in and attack. And things that we don't even know about, that government is just keeping hush right now. There's been a lot of cyber attacks that's been happening, and more things are on its way. It is time to wake up and see what you can do. Allow conviction to come on you and to know what your part in all of this to help and to fight against what's coming up against our country. You can move out the country all you want to. If you are blessed, guess what? It still doesn't change what's going on in this country. So, anyways, congratulations, Miss Angie Nixon, and to Miss Dana Foster. Yeah, Dana Marie Foster. Go ahead and get it. We need to change. We need to change. That's all I do have. Y'all can leave your comments. Like, comment, subscribe. Until the next one. Peace.